Just to refresh the memory, carrying over from part 1 of the video on the CRYPTEX, I'm here making the capping bush, which is screwed to the shaft to the locking sleeve, and keeps all the other indexing bushes below it together. I now need to skim all the faces of the bushes and the dials so that they're all as near the same thickness for all 5 as I can get them. In order to create consistency throughout all the index bushes and dials, I select the smallest of each and trim all the rest of the bushes to match. I check every face of the bushes and the dials to make sure that they're all perfectly flat or slightly convex. Rather than having to go through the rigmarole of changing the jaws on the chuck, I've reverted back to my wooden jam chuck to size all the indexing dials. Because I've used a Forstner bit on the bores of the dials, all the bores are consistent, so I don't have to keep altering the jam chuck to suit the dials. That's it, the 5 indexing bush and dial assemblies are all finished and all hopefully the same thickness. It's easy to get distracted by turning and forgetting the next operations. Fortunately, I left a spigot that there was the correct size for the jaws of the chuck. I'm now making a recess in the key sleeve end cap to accept the capping bush so that it looks the same at both ends of the CRYPTEX. Here I'm re-establishing the depth of the key sleeve recess. I forgot to allow for the extra length, so I'm just rectifying that. I recommend you finish turning the locking sleeve and key sleeves length until you've assembled all the components together, and then you can remove the waste of the key sleeve and the locking sleeves to suit. I'm using the thickness measurement of the dial ring in order to reproduce that length on the indexing pins. In order to make a slot to clear the indexing pins, well, for the engineers amongst you, a keyway is to use a 5mm drill as a guide so that I can cut the slot with a hacksaw blade. As you can see, by repositioning the dial in any 10 positions on the indexing bush, you can change the combination at any time, which gives it its flexibility and its reusability. Here I'm illustrating the importance of keeping flat surfaces on all mating components. I'm raising the tool rest to the centre height of the lathe, and then I'll use the tool rest as a guide to create a scribe line using a knife along the full length of the locking sleeve. I'm using the indexing jig to scribe a further 2 lines, 2.5mm above and 2.5mm below the centre line I'd previously drawn. Here I'm smoothing off the rough edges I created with a knife using a file, and then I'll use 100 grit abrasives to widen the slot to the lines I'd previously drawn. I'm now assembling all the dial pieces onto the locking sleeve in order to determine the length of the locking sleeve itself. I remove all but one of the dial assemblies, and then I use the first dial assembly as a guide to position the hole for the first pin, and I draw a circle roughly the same diameter of the pin to indicate where to drill the hole. I then repeat the process for each individual dial assembly until all 5 dial assembly pinholes have been indicated. For obvious reasons, it's important that all the dial assemblies face the same direction, i.e. with the recess for the pins going over the position of the pin from the previous dial assembly. As you can see, I'm making sure that the drill and the guide pin, which I use for marking the sleeve, is square to the axis of the sleeve. Now the pinholes are drilled, it's just a matter of making the 5 dowels to be glued into them. As you can see here, I drilled too many holes, and it's a matter of blocking that hole with some resin later on. Here I'm using a small piece of plywood to lock the positions of the dial assemblies ready for marking. Now I've locked all the dial assemblies into position with the piece of plywood, I'm now marking for my own purposes the unlocking position of the CRYPTEX. smaller piece of plywood that went into the slots to lock all the dials in position kept falling out, so I made a bigger one to span the full depth of the bore. I'm showing the 3 screw holes in the capping bush for fixing the capping bush to the locking sleeve. Now I've locked all the dials into position with the plywood, I can now glue on the labels to the dials. In order to calculate the length of the dial graphics, I measured the diameter and times that by pi, which is 3.142, which gives me the total circumference. And then I used a graphics program, probably Inkscape or something like that you could download for free, to draw out the graphics. Off camera I made a ring to suit the outside diameter of the end caps, and then I chopped the ring up into 2 pieces to make an indicator for the positions of the dials. Here with a pencil I'm marking the positions of the indicators before I glue them. It's now just a case of testing the workings of the CRYPTEX and just applying a little abrasives here and there to make the sleeve withdrawal easy to achieve. Well, here it is, the finished CRYPTEX. It's quite stiff to use. I'm hoping that eventually it will get more and more easy as the wood wears a little bit and etc. Like I said before, you can always put money in, tickets to shows, concerts, jewellery, messages, secret messages. I'm hoping it will be a nice central feature of many a party game. Where you could leave clues around to crack the code to open the CRYPTEX. Having a look at it, I quite like the blend of the dials with the colour of the mahogany once I've sprayed it with lacquer. It looks, I think the actual colour scheme looks quite good and interesting and in keeping with a complicated CRYPTEX. It's not complicated to make, but seems very complicated to explain, and I hope I've got over to you in sufficient way that you could make one. What I would like to do is I would like to change the indicators on the end caps. I think they're a little bit ugly and perhaps a little bit of a speedy end to the manufacture of it. I think I could have taken a bit more care and made the indicators more in keeping with the design of the CRYPTEX. So I'm sure many of you, if you do take it up, would think of a better way of creating the indicators. But other than that, I've quite enjoyed it, making it, and I hope you've enjoyed the video. So until my next video, all the best and a happy new year, and oh yes, could you please subscribe? Thanks very much. All the best. Bye.